So welcome to this two-day workshop, which is today and tomorrow at the same time from noon to 1 p.m. And for Camellia, it will be a few hours before because she's currently in France. So it's 8 in the morning for her. So good morning, Camellia. And before we begin this workshop, I'll just briefly tell you why we came up with this idea and a little bit about Camellia herself. I take this privilege because I have been her PhD supervisor. So it's a very proud moment for me to introduce her and this novel idea that she herself came up with to conduct a workshop for the PhD students who are midway through their PhD research or are towards the culmination of it. And she was my first PhD student, so we both were very new to the whole process, and we kind of made our way through it, through all the administrative, bureaucratic, and academic hurdles and phases of it. And so at the end of it, when she finally graduated and moved to France for her postdoc, she came up with this idea that we should conduct a workshop for the other students, and it will immensely benefit them. So that is how we came up with this idea. And a little bit about Camellia before I tell you about the workshop itself. She obtained her master's from the School of Human Ecology at the Ambedkar University at Delhi and joined IIT Gandhinagar as a PhD student in 2018 in the discipline and now Department of Humanities and Social Sciences. The title of her thesis was Mapping the Dynamics of Human and Non-Human Relations in the Indian Sundarbans from the context of cyclonic disasters. So during her PhD, she pursued an interdisciplinary research track, integrating ideas across the fields of multi-species entanglement or multi-species studies, political and cultural ecology, and climate disaster under the purview of environmental anthropology. She has conducted her fieldwork extensively in the Indian Sundarbans, employing multiple methodologies and to explore these diverse types of relationships between humans, non-humans, and the climate, and the kind of relationships that exist there, especially among the locals who live in the fringe areas of the forest, the mangroves themselves, and the flagship animal species, that is tigers. The results and analysis encapsulate the materialities and subjective dimensions that influence these interrelationships and interdependencies, especially in the context of disasters like cyclones. So during her PhD, Camellia received several recognitions, awards, grants, which aided her fieldwork, to dissertation writing, to several other peripheral skills that she acquired. And she has showcased her research at several national and international conferences across the globe and through peer-reviewed articles, book chapters, and also popular media publications. After having completed her PhD from here, for which I must add, I think the feather in the cap was that she won the gold medal for the best thesis award from the director at the recently held convocation of the IIT Gandhinagar. And her work is obviously one of the best to have come out in the last few years, especially from the discipline of humanities and social sciences. Soon after which she moved to France, Paris, specifically to pursue her postdoctorate research. And she has joined the CNRS, which is the French National Center for Scientific Research, and the University of Paris, Saclay, where she's working on the multitude of experiences of marginalization and resilience among migrants in the context of climate disasters in another Southeast Asian country, which is Malaysia, Asian country rather, which is Malaysia. So welcome, Camellia, and you can now take over. And yeah, I just forgot to mention one thing, that I was not the only supervisor for her thesis. We had Professor Chavinath Pandey, a very senior and experienced professor from IIT Gandhinagar, who was her co-supervisor in the research. And he is also very happy that she has come up with this workshop idea and is trying to help the other students. So welcome, Camellia, and you can now take over.
Thank you. I think I hope you can listen here.
Little louder.
Hello. Can you hear?
This is fine.
Yeah. Sorry, it's a bit early, so I had to wake up a bit early, so maybe my voice is a bit sore in that way. But thank you so much, ma'am, for giving this elaborative introduction. But it's good to be, back to the institute virtually. But yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I think this idea came up with ma'am a couple of times, and when I was also discussing with my HSS friends and colleagues that and I think it's also about how we go through a lot of processes together, but also individually because. Many a times because in IIT there is a discipline which is humanities and social sciences, so there are people who are doing different interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary work. For example, anthropology, development studies, and then sociology or policy. So many of us are doing it for the first time. It's uh, it becomes a bit difficult because you don't have any reference in the in our library to go back and to see a dissertation how it is written, because technically in IIT Gandhinagar HSS department we do not have, and many department I think across India do not have a particular guideline of how to write a dissertation and all. So this is just an example for mine. And I think I have taken examples from my own department, from my previous seniors. I've also looked around different dissertation, but it's also about how we started dissertation and all. So I'll just share my PPT. The main idea is that today we'll be in the first. I'm going to give you a brief about how we are, going through the process of dissertation. So I think a lot of you are second year master students, even first year PhD, second year, or even at the end of PhD. So this is also about how we start the PhD, but and also the different stages of a dissertation writing. So obviously, it is skewed for because from my experience for PhD, but I think it is also helpful for masters people who are doing their dissertation or will soon start writing their dissertation. So and currently, I am in Paris, and I've just defended my PhD in June. So these things are freshly in mind. But again, just a disclaimer, this is from my perspective. This is how I have seen IIT Gandhinagar HSS department works, or the IIT, the PhD sort of submission or everything works around. This might not be exactly same for departments in different university, but I think the template will more or less be same. So I think that would really help many of you who are not from IIT Gandhinagar. So I think we got a lot of responses from across India about attending this seminar, and I was also quite a shock because I thought it will just be an HSS, just be an IIT Gandhinagar thing, but eventually, ma'am decided that we open it up to other universities and other students. So um, firstly, is like I think this is a question that I gave in the Google form, and the main challenge is in dissertation writing. So I think there were a lot of options that was provided, but within this, I selected to focus on this 4-1 because I think these are the major major points or major crux that builds the the process of dissertation, and what challenges in the dissertation or article writing rather. Um, so beginning with so I've divided into 3 stages of a whole PhD or a dissertation writing structure. And keeping in mind that many a times you might not resonate with this thing, but there are a lot of things that you might also resonate. So this is the first is the stage 1 of planning and stressing, obviously, before we even start writing. So in PhD, we do not. So a lot of us are from the social sciences, doing anthropology, sociology, development studies. A lot of us also probably from earth sciences or archaeology. So we do our writing post our field work, because a lot of things changes after the field work. We might have thought about a particular research objective and research question, but once we go to the field, things changes. So in these subjects where field work is required, it's in subject where you have to do a lot of analysis, the writing begins quite at the later stage of your PhD. Whereas in humanities, for example, people dealing with literature, philosophy, people dealing with archives, like history, philosophy, literature, I think the writing starts quite in the mid of the PhD, because a lot of analysis is happening. You're sitting and you're doing a lot of analysis right then and there. So uh, the uh, the structure of writing or the span of writing might be different from your friend. So both of you might have joined in 2018, but somebody has started writing in 2020 while you are starting to write on 2021 and 2022. So it is completely okay when you can start writing at any point of time, but it is also about how we are planning to write. So in the beginning, when we are selecting a PhD topic, I think it is quite important how we are choosing a topic. And many of you are in your first years of masters or first years of PhDs, where you're still doing your coursework. It is, and you might have a topic that you got into in your PhD program, but eventually you start showing interest, or you start liking a different topic or some other topic. So it is very important that you know what topic you want to research on. And sometimes some new thing comes up and we find extremely interested, we want to do research on that because we find it extremely exciting. Oh, there's so much of work done, I want to do there. But you also have to understand that whether you have expertise in that, whether you have done some courses in your masters or not. And if you have not done, that's completely fine, because you can also take up courses, but a lot of reading is required. And many also most of us I think if you don't read a lot of articles, go ahead reading a lot of pop culture articles, opinion pieces, look up what is going on currently in your research topic. It just helps you understand that whatever you're thinking at the back of your mind about your research topic, whether it has already been done or not. And secondly is the research scope. So let's say you have selected a topic. Let's say I want to do it on tourism, and I want to do it on ecotourism. And ecotourism, let's say it's a topic that has hugely been discussed, and a lot of people have worked on that. So you have to find out what is something that is quite relevant at this point, some research gap, something that people have not worked around, or a research area that people might have worked on that particular topic, but it has not been implied in a particular research field or research area. So your topic selection can be anything and everything, depending about where you find the gap. And third is about obviously time management. I think uh, it is where you sort of plan from the beginning. And I think this is where the relationship with your supervisor grows, because you also sometimes you have a supervisor who is proactive, you might have a supervisor who is not so proactive. But I think it's also about coming to a point where you both can manage time. So with me and Professor Shada and Professor Pandey, I think what we did come up with is making a PhD study plan for myself. And I think I think a lot of you would follow that. So I'll just give you a glimpse of my own PhD study plan. This is something I think you might want to see. I'll just so this was my PhD study plan. This is nothing that you have to do, but it just helps you be on track. And I understand that these takes a lot of time, but you can do it on alternate weekends on a month, or maybe once or twice a month. It just helps you keep a track of what you're doing every month, and every semester. So what we did is that every semester, let's say, I'm just giving you one example. Um, Yeah, so some work where you are applying, if you are you have some deadlines, where you have to apply for workshop, for workshop, for conferences. So this is something I used to do, do give a deadline, and Shada ma'am used to go back and forth to see whether I'm meeting the deadlines or not. So this is something what we did. This was something that me and my supervisor sort of decided on doing. But it's not required. But this is just keeping a track about how sort of I did my whole 5.5 years of PhD. And you can also have a track about keeping your reading list, like something like that, where I sort of kept the kind of books and the articles that I've been reading, or the ones that I feel like are very important for my PhD. But yeah, I completely agree that many a times it is difficult to update these sort of things. So not necessarily that you have to do this type of study plan, but I would suggest that doing this just helps you be on track, and just helps you not feel overwhelmed, because you know that you have certain deadlines, so you don't overstress. So if you know that you have a deadline of submitting a journal article, let's say 30th of October, you wouldn't want other work to be around those dates, because you already have a deadline. And obviously structuring of dissertation, that I'll probably come a bit late, where I did have prepared a little bit of a structure to help you out with. And This is the so what I felt like, we all have writer's block, and I think this is something, what if I say my strategies, it might work for you, it might not work for you, because we are all different individuals. Sometimes it might work, sometimes it might not, but I'm still going to give what I felt sort of it worked for me. So one is obviously, I used to make very weekly or monthly goals, sort of, writing things like what I need to do by this week. And see, sometimes it's, you want to finish one article in 2 days, but sometimes, we cannot finish an article in a 2 day, but it takes up a whole week. Even sometimes it takes up a whole month, completely on what kind of mental condition we are at. But it is good to have these small goals, because some days we work really fast, and some days we take weeks and months to work. But it just helps you to set those things. Okay, this time I'm not feeling like I'm reading, maybe I will finish this in a month or so. And sometimes we don't know how to start an article. I have been talking this to one of my friend, and it was difficult that when we are starting to write our first article, our first journal article, or something like your first chapter, we don't know how to write, we don't know how to do the introduction, how to do the beginning. We might have a lot of ideas about how to do the analysis. So it is okay to taking examples and cues from different intros of the paper that has inspired your work. So in my case, I would go to the different research paper, or even dissertations that has worked on Sundarbans, or people working on human non-humans. So I have read how they have started their thesis, or how they have started their particular chapter, or how they have written their introduction, and I've taken some inspiration from them, and then I've started writing. So it is okay to take the inspiration, but if you are also taking somebody's line, it is better to give due credits to them. And or at this point of time, I think a lot of us get dependent on AI, which is completely fine, because I also use AI, and it would be stupid to say that oh, I don't use chat gpt, or I don't use all these other AI tools. We all need the AI tools, but in humanities and social sciences particularly, the AI won't be able to do your analysis. How much you're going to feed a prompt or whatever, you can find a lot of them in Instagram, you can feed this prompt and all, but the analysis, why? Because it needs that human touch. Because what AI will bring out is all the things that is, let's say you're doing a survey, and it will only show the things that is visible. It won't look out the things that are the rarest one, that are the things which you might have heard in the field, or which you felt like, oh, this could have been done because you have read a lot of literature. Because AI won't be able to do that sort of thinking or analysis thinking from your perspective. So it is good to take some structure from the AI, but I would suggest doing an analysis by yourself will just help you bring out a lot of nuances from your fieldwork data or from your analysis that I don't think a research tool can help you doing so. And when we are saying free writing, uh, uh, I think I go back to those traditional method of jotting down, taking a notebook, and just writing things when you're reading a paper, and you like something. Many times we are reading in our laptop, but it is good to have a notebook next to you, and so whatever ideas that you're coming up, you can also highlight if you're reading it in a paper, or you're highlighting when you're reading it in your laptop. But it is also good to even jot down some ideas, because when we are writing, sometimes some random ideas come through, and it's better to write them down, because I think writing helps. It just helps you connect the dots of your particular literature review or your chapters. You make some diagrams, you make how you can connect, you make pointer to pointer notes. So I think this traditional method of writing, jotting down by a pen and paper has helped me, and I think many of you would agree with that. And one suggestions that I will give you, that when you have started writing, just don't go back immediately editing. A lot of us would do that. We have written a paragraph, and then we go back and reread it, and then we start polishing the grammar, the tenses, and in that all hodgepodge, we sort of forget the flow of writing. So it's better that you start writing whatever it is in your mind. Don't think about the grammar, the tense, and you just keep on writing the ideas that you have for a particular chapter. So write a page or two at a go, and then maybe you can go back to this writing and do the editing of your grammar and tenses. And obviously, we all know we all need a change of environment. And if you are at IIT Gandhinagar, I think you have a lot of places to go and sit and do your work. Sometimes, you are in your workspace, sometimes you're in your room, and sometimes it helps, sitting in the library. I think, I've spent most times writing my thesis in the library, and later on, I have taken my supervisor's room, Professor Pandey's room, to sort of finish my writing. So, and I think sometimes, I don't know if it works for you, but for me, when I'm too much stuck with something, I just want to get over with it. So that sort of attitude sort of helped me. I have also procrastinated a lot, but at times when you are at the last leg of your PhD, really you don't have time in your hand. And when people say, take it slowly and all, but your fellowship is going to end, you really don't have time. So we really have to have that get it over with attitude at the end, because we just want to get it over with our PhD, because at one point we get really blocked, because there's no new ideas coming in our mind at the fourth, fifth year. And I think a couple of my friends who are in their final year, they can completely agree with what I'm saying. And it is always good to have friends. It is good to have your peers, your colleagues. So sometimes you have friends within your colleagues who are in working with your supervisor, but you also have your other friend circle group, right? So you can talk to them. They might be from different fields. So when I was in my last leg, I had people who are from from sciences, from people who are doing literatures, history, people who are also in engineering. Everybody gave their viewpoints into my thesis. So I think it sometimes helps, because you get a fresh idea into your thesis. And lastly is, yes, it is good to use prompts, use topic related prompts in AI. That sort of helps you, get some newer ideas. And the last example is, if you're in your second, third year, and sometimes you feel like, oh, I have not published, I've not started publishing yet. It is good to start writing opinion pieces. I have done that, because It has just helped me come out of that fear of, oh, I'm not a good writer, I don't have that great of a vocabulary, so will I be able to publish or not? So it is great, it is good to start with writing smaller opinion pieces, some pop culture article, going to a conference. And when we are presenting in a conference, we often write a sort of a what we are going to speak. So that write up is already there with you. You just have to polish it and furnish it into a paper or in a smaller popular media article. This is another stage of writing. I think this is the most important when we are just in between the writing process. I think this is where sometimes you will be doing great, and sometimes we'll go months not even writing anything. So keep in mind this particular things, like um, we have to keep in mind the academic, maintaining the academic rigor, because uh, at the end of the day your dissertation will be reviewed. So taking shortcuts will not help. And sometimes we feel like, oh, I just we get charged up saying that I want to finish a PhD in 3 years and 4 years, but it took me 5.5 years. So sometimes it's okay to take 5.5 years, but make sure that you're true to your work, and don't get yourself into like, I can just use prompts and get things done quickly. And people who are doing into social sciences, I think methodological clarity is very much important, because you want to justify your research methods. If you're doing an interdisciplinary approach, why you are doing so, what is the requirement of that. So I think it would be good that you talk about all of this with your supervisor. And the last thing is also about having what kind of citation that you are going to use, whether you're going to use Harvard, MLA, APA. There's so many things in HSS, but find out one citation that you want to use. Obviously it doesn't work, because many a times we want to go to different journals. So I have used APA, but most journal that I'm trying to publish my work, they want MLA or Chicago or Harvard. So I have to do the complete change in citation. That is a sort of con for getting into humanities and social sciences. But I think it's better to have a citation in your mind. If you're doing in anthropology and specifically anthro and socio and psychology, I think APA is the best. For literature, I think it's MLA, and history and all, you can go Chicago, history, archaeology, Chicago and Harvard. And also there are different these citation management sort of softwares like Mendeley, EndNote, and Zotero. I had used that Zotero, but it is sometimes, at the end, I have just come back doing citation manually, because I would be citing a lot of online newspaper, a lot of popular media article that won't be sort of curated in this particular software tools. So it is okay to do your own manual citation. So I think citation is very important. And obviously last is the third stage, stress about at the end, where you are almost finishing your writing. And there is also this admin stress, because there are so much of admin work, at least in IIT Gandhinagar. And but there are so post submission processes. You have to take forms and you have to get it signed. There are a number of documents to be uploaded. But before that, I think when you are just at the last leg, you have almost, you're writing your last chapter, or you have finished all your draft of chapter, it is very important to like to read your whole thesis. We get really irritated that why like how will we maintain this flow between a chapter. And after writing a 200 and 250 page of PhD, it becomes very daunting to start from the beginning. But take a break and do read your work. And sometimes what happens, we don't find a flaw in our work. So it is good to get it read by one or two of your friends or peers, not the whole thesis, but at least a couple of chapters, because and ask them to give, like a proper feedback, not like, oh, this is a good work and all. Just you know pose some critical questions if you think there is no logical flow between your chapters, because we are writing the chapters in a different time frame. One chapter is written in 20, you will be writing in 2023, another chapter will be at 25, another 2 3 chapters at the rush down when you are going to finish your PhD. So there has to be a proper connection. And just a quick suggestion, obviously you all know that, but do not write your intro and conclusion in the beginning, because it might change. Usually it changes, and it is better to have your introduction and conclusion written at the end. It just helps you connect the chapters, your main body chapters, easily. Obviously, imposter syndrome, I still have that after also PhD. So this is something you have to deal with it. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I could have written more in my PhD, and I could have done I could have added this thing. And I think this is where your supervisor comes in, and they ask you to, okay, I think this is the time where you can submit your thesis, and you can always continue your work later on. And one last, I think submission anxiety and all that we all have, and that is an individual way of how we can reduce stress. But one suggestion that I would give is that do not hurry in submitting your PhD thesis. In masters, obviously, we don't have time. You have to submit it by, if you're in a final year this year in masters, you have to submit it by April or May. Sometimes you can take an extension, but you have to submit it by summers. But for PhD, you have time. Obviously, your fellowship might get over, but do not hurry, because your PhD is going to go to your external reviewers, and in a hurried submission ends up finding flaws in your grammar, your writing structure. And so take some time. I finished writing my thesis at around October, and for 2 months it was me and Shada ma'am and Pandey sir. We are going back and forth with grammars, and I think at one point of time I got really frustrated. I was like, no, I want to submit, and but Shada ma'am was like, no, no, you have to change this grammar, change the tone. And at that point of time I might have become quite frustrated, but trust me, when the reviews came and I had no comments on my grammar, it was really helpful, because I have also heard from a lot of my friends that you do get called out for incorrect grammar. So make sure that do not hurry your submissions, because PhD it's like a 200, 250 word document. You have so many things to keep in mind at the end, structuring, content writing, your page number. And if you are into anthro and socio, you have a lot of fieldwork pictures, that the pictures, figures needs to be, properly, properly typed in the table of content. So make sure you take your time. Um, And just giving you a basics of dissertation writing, this is a template of writing a dissertation or a research proposal. This is also a template where you can also want to submit a research grant. Let's say there are different for fieldwork grant, different research grants. So I think many a times it just follows this kind of structure. Sometimes you have to also submit for research grants. A write-up of maybe 1,000 or 1,500, but in your research proposal, often a title and introduction, a proper literature review where you identify gap, and a research design. I think this is where you make or break your acceptance into a PhD program or getting a research grant, because your methodology should be unique, and where you make sure that your research question and objective sort of comes out quite properly. When you're writing your dissertation proposal, you're pitching it to a potential supervisor. It is okay to just give a research question, not have a particular objective, because you're pitching it for the first time. But make sure that you justify why this work, what is the uniqueness and relevance of this work. And yes, having a proper referencing list, specifically including a primary list of sources, would be really helpful, because they would know that you have done your work, you have done your homework. They know that what are the list that you're working. And just a cue, it is good if you are just applying for PhD or a postdoc, and when you're reaching out to them, it is good to have read your potential supervisor's work. It just helps, and put their work into your proposal. So yeah, just a small tip that might help. So how can I think I've got a couple of questions on common dissertation structure or chapterization. Basically, it is okay to have, I think, in humanities and social sciences, but also in, I think, engineering and normal sciences, where 5 to 7 chapters. uh, I had 6 chapters, so often people have either 5, 6, or 7. You can go up till a max of 8, uh, if you want to have your body chapters, as in like small, like 20, 30 pages of chapter. But it is good to go between 5 to 7, and do not go beyond that, because your reviewer is not going to read a very heavy dissertation. But also many times we end up just repeating a lot of things that we have written in our thesis. So make sure that you curtail it down to 5 to 7 chapters. I'm giving you a purview of, obviously, in chapter 1, we do the introduction. Uh, and when we are doing introduction, we also, in the introduction chapter, we also incorporate our literature review. And a lot of times people also incorporate their methodology. If you are from the humanities, you just say them that, you are doing a literary analysis, or you're doing archives, something like that. It is all there in your chapter 1. Usually the chapter 1 becomes quite a big, if you have your introduction, literature review, and some part of methodology. So it is good to sort of divide the chapter into 2 parts. And in your introduction, or your introductory chapter, make sure that you give a roadmap to your dissertation. So either in your extended abstract, you would give, chapter 1 talks about this, chapter 2 talks about this, or something like that. But it would be better if you give it in your chapter 1, which is in your introduction, giving a roadmap of how your dissertation is going to look. This is also, I think, a master dissertation, people should also do that. It just helps whoever is reading your dissertation or thesis would really find it helpful. Uh, Going to chapter number 2, the second chapter, for a lot of people, they do not want to have literature review in their introduction. So if they want to have a smaller introduction, they make a separate chapter on literature review, on the different themes that they will be dealing on, and the secondary literature that they have read. For many people, like for myself, my introduction had introduction and literature review. For second chapter, because I dealt a lot on methodology, so the second chapter was on methodology. And in methodology, when I'm saying methodology, it talks about actually the whole research design, my research question, objective. I'm introducing my field work, my field site, and the other methodological nuances that you'll be dealing with. And then I think after chapter 1 and 2, the next 3 to 4 chapters will be your body chapters, and they can be based on themes that you are dealing with in your PhD, or they can be also a research question based chapter. So these are the 3 or the 4 chapters that I think many of you who are in your mid PhD, or if you have also started writing, have done your analysis, you have started writing with your body chapter. Make sure that the body chapters are almost have same page number. I mean, sort of like same length. If you have all the chapters, I had a problem because one of my body chapter went up till 40 pages. So make sure that it do not cross 35 pages. It's just too difficult for your reviewer to sort of read a very lengthy chapter. But it's okay. I think it might go to 40, 45 pages if you have a lot of figures and datas and a lot of pictures in it. Then it's completely fine. But it is better to have it within 30, 35 page. And many a times, people who are into quantitative work in humanities and social sciences, they might follow the 3-paper publication thesis pattern, where the 3 papers in their body chapters are actually individual papers. But most of us, we don't, like in anthropology, sociology, literature, or history, per se, we sort of have a continuation of chapters. So we do not have 3-paper publication in that way. But talk it with your supervisor whether you want to have a 3-paper publication or you want to have like a separate chapter. Because what I did is, like, a couple of my papers were already published, so I have to, in one particular chapter, I had some part of my paper published work written in that chapter. So that is something that you should discuss. And then obviously your last chapter will be your concluding chapter. If you're writing a 3-paper publication thesis, it is good to have a separate discussion chapter. But what I did is that my discussion and concluding chapter was my last chapter. And then you have your references, where obviously these need to be cited correctly, whatever citation you're doing. And just to give a heads up, you should also be doing, like, whether you're doing, like a have all the notes at the end, or you want to have the notes at the end of your every chapter. So figure out and how you want to put your citation, whether after every chapter or whether you want to have all the citation at the end of your thesis. I had all the citations at the end of the thesis because, several of the citation is repeated in many chapters, so it is better to have it at the end. Then you will have annexures. I think this is something a lot of people don't talk about, but this takes a lot of time, because in annexure, if you will be giving out a lot of details of as in, if you have done a survey form, things that you find were not extremely relevant enough to be put into your thesis, but are important that the reviewer knows that you have also done that. And sometimes you have a lot of things, a lot of pictures, a lot of maps, or a lot of data that were like ancillary data that were not important to be put into your thesis, but you write in your thesis that, you can refer to annexure A, annexure B, something like that. And what count, this is completely a conversation that you need to do with your supervisor. But tentatively, what I searched online is that it should be 80,000, because it is more readable in that way. And the pages should be 200 to 250. And just a quick note, many a times, a lot of people, when they're writing their dissertation, it is good to sort of keep the idea how you're going to format your dissertation. It is better to have it, like a standard page. Many a times we want to fill the paper, and we sort of widen our margins. We write a lot of gaps, maybe like I don't know, double gaps between lines. I think it is quite an off for the reviewer, because it gives them a sense that you are just trying to increase the number of papers, but not your writing. So make sure that because at the end of the day, nowadays everything goes to a reviewer as an e-paper. So there's no point increasing a lot of spaces into your work. My PhD was 287 pages, which I felt a bit more. It should have been between 250, but again, my main writing finished in around 240 pages. The rest were just citation pages of at least 10 pages of references, and then pictures, and then annexures. So and master dissertation should be again around 10,000 words, max to max 20,000, but 20,000 is too much. I think it should be around 10,000 to 15,000 words. And that being said, this is just a small table of content from my own thesis. This is how I have done, and just trying to tell you that how a thesis table of content might look like. You will have an extended abstract, you'll have to give a list of figures, table, map, pictures, and trust me, these things take a lot of time. So make sure when you are almost at the end of your PhD or your master's dissertation, you have kept at least a couple of days, and for PhD at least a week or so, to sort of polish your dissertation and sort of your table of content, so that your figure numbers to your page number, everything sort of coincides properly. So and if you are writing, if you have a lot of words which are not in English, because in other languages, for example, I had a lot of words or keywords in Bengali, and I had to give a proper key glossary about each Bengali words that I have used in my thesis, with it's like a dictionary. And you can have a lot of other I have also had a note of translation and transcription, specifically about how I'm translating, and what are the ethical dilemmas of translating. So it just helps if you are doing into anthropology or sociology, if you're dealing with communities. Obviously, you'll be dealing with communities with different languages, with their own language. I think we just have around like 10-15 minutes. So I'll just quickly just talk about how we can sort of convert ideas, data, and analysis into a structured chapter. Obviously, beginning when we want to begin a chapter, let's say you are just in between, you are in your third or fourth year, and you have to start writing your chapter because you have just come back from your field. So when you're from your field, you're overwhelmed with a lot of data. It is very important that you make a proper entry of your data, and you want to, if you have a lot of numbers, if you've done a lot of surveys, try to convert them. Try not, and you should convert them into an Excel sheet, visual chart. But also, if you have a lot of interviews, you've done ethnography, you should make sure that all those recorded interviews are written down properly in a notebook, or you can type it in your laptop. I had a particular one notebook of all my interviews, and then you can sort of reread them, and then you can highlight which are the themes, and you can take out themes from them. And then you can have to like sort data into thematic codes. You have to group your data, whether it's a qualitative or quantitative, and from that themes you can find out, okay, if these are the themes that I want to write in chapter 1, chapter 3, these are the things that I want to write in chapter 4. This theme sort of coincides with my research question 1, this theme sort of coincides with my third research question. So for example, my chapter 3 about I was talking about a community resilience and all, and I sort of try to divide it into very sub themes. So each of my chapters in my thesis, all of my chapters were pertaining to the research question. So they were not thematically coded, but they were like basis of the research question. And it is also important that because each chapter will have different goals. And let's say you are dealing with 3 research questions, and in total you have like 6 major themes that you have coded from your interviews. So you can sort of like divide 2 themes per each chapters. But sometimes what happens that you find like more themes pertains to one research questions and lesser themes to pertain to another research question. So you can talk to your supervisor, and you can always change your research question. You can tweak them, you can tweak your objectives around that. And make sure that you are addressing the research question and objective of your dissertation in each of the chapter, whatever research question and objective, but make sure that it is quite evident in your chapter. And this is just a small template about how you can sort of have your chapter can be structured. Sort of you have to introduce the chapter, If also in your introductory chapter in a dissertation, you are giving a roadmap, in your journal article or in your chapter, you also have to provide a roadmap saying that what this chapter is going to contain, which research question and objective are you going to, sort of deal with, and what are the themes. So this will be your introduction. Then you might need a section where you will be talking about the literature. If your chapter deals with text or data, you might want to begin by discussing those relevant theories that sort of will help you giving a backdrop of your analysis. Sometimes a separate literature section is okay. It is important when you're writing a journal, but not always that you have to have it in a dissertation chapter. But you can always incorporate that in the introduction phase of your chapter itself. And then obviously it comes about presenting your data and idea. I think this is the most important part. I again would say that, sit with a pen and paper, make points that, how you want to have the logical flow of you presenting your data and idea, how you're going to introduce the theme. Let's say you and start explaining the theme, the concept that you have explored. Go back and forth with the the stalwart or the people who have been working with this particular theme, their literature. And if you are for your qualitative data, make sure that you present the data in the form of stories, take out certain excerpts and you put it in your chapters, or observation from the field. And obviously if it's a quantitative data analysis, you have to put a lot of chart and graphs and table. But also this chart and graphs will not be enough and later on you have to also do the analysis of this graph or chart along with, obviously, if you have stories and quotes for qualitative. And it is important that why are you putting out this data? So you might have had in your survey questionnaire, let's say 20 question, and you have converted everything into like a visual chart, let's say pie chart or a bar graph. But why are you putting that particular pie chart or a bar graph into your data? It is important because it should make sense with the chapter's major theme or the question that you're trying to answer. Similar to a qualitative data, if you're putting a lot of stories or questions, those stories or excerpts should have that similar themes running across the chapter. And again, at the end, when you are sort of analyzing these stories, this observation, make sure you go back and forth and try to link it with the theory or the literature. It just gives a more depth to your chapter writing. And at the end, when you are at the end of the chapter, give a broader implication of your finding. Try to link it to your research question, but also make sure that you sort of connect it to your next chapter. Yeah, I think just giving you a clear transition, what can happen between chapters. So at the end of each chapter, how can you possibly conclude, right? So you can have a concluding subsection, or you can have a paragraph, or even 2 or 3 lines. For example, I'm just giving you, in my thesis, what I try to say in every last portion is like, let's say the integrate dynamics and interaction between the species during time of adversity forms the focal point of contention in the upcoming 2 chapters. So I'm sort of giving the reader a sort of idea that, how this chapter is being linked with the upcoming chapter. And at the beginning of each new chapter, let's say you are talking about your body chapter, and you can say, the previous chapter sort of discussed the various reasons for this. However, in this chapter, we'll be talking about or taking cues from the previous chapter, something like that. And using transitional phase between your phrases, between your chapter is very important. So it's like, you can say, as it's established in the previous chapter, and you sort of put a page number saying that, the reviewer can sort of refer to this number, or as you can say that, as discussed in the previous section. So make sure within your dissertation or thesis chapters, you go back and forth with your previous chapters, or the themes that has been dealt with your previous chapter, or your introduction or literature review. It just gives the reviewer the idea that, the thesis is connected. They can go back and forth. It just helps you connect, build that dot and connect your chapters more easily. And keep on going, referring back to your research questions and objective. Each chapter should reinforce and sort of connect back to the research question. So and make sure that your extended abstract or introductory chapter or concluding chapter outlines the chapter and syncs with the research question. So for example, in the concluding chapter, I have sort of written, our second research question, this had two objectives, and each exploring this in the chapter which was captured in chapter 4 and 5. So you have to keep on repeating, but in a very different ways. You cannot have, it's where the writing style comes in, that you are trying to make a connect, but you are not repeating yourself. And you have to regularly remind the reader of your research aims and objectives, so that there remains a coherency in the chapter. So yeah, I think we are almost, it's 9:30, and I think I'll end today. I think it's a lot to take in. There were a lot of other slides. I think we can continue from this tomorrow. Mainly we will be talking about, some more about questions on chapter that we can take up now. And then tomorrow we will be mainly looking into how we can write a rebuttal of a journal paper or a PhD thesis, and also about the post PhD submission processes. So yeah, I think Saurabh, is there any question that I think we can take up?
Yes, Camellia. I think some people have asked about your PhD plan template. So,
Okay. Okay, yeah. So the template, okay, I'll try to have the template and share it tomorrow with you. This is something that was made by me, and I think this is also the template that I think Saurav and all these people also use. I don't know if Saurav, do you use this template or a different
yes,
one?
yes. We use the same.
Yeah,
It's
so
the benchmark for us.
yeah, but this is something, it just helps you. But yeah, I would share the one tomorrow. I think there's somebody who raised their hand.
Yes. Nandini Kansal, you can speak.
Thank you, sir. So, myself Nandini Kansal and I am from Ghaziabad. मैं अभी मास्टर्स कर रही हूँ अपने आर्कियोलॉजी में अम्बेडकर यूनिवर्सिटी से।
Okay.
तो मुझे कमीलिया मैम से ये पूछना था, मैम आपने एक जगह ये बताया था कि जब हम साइटेशन करते हैं तो हमें कहाँ पे एपीए यूज करना चाहिए, शिकागो यूज करना चाहिए। तो वो पॉइंट ना मेरा छूट गया था। आपने क्या बताया था कि लिटरेचर या हिस्ट्री राइटिंग में किस तरीके साइटेशन यूज करनी चाहिए, या साइंटिफिक डाटा होता है, साइंटिफिक वो रिसर्च होता है तो किस तरीका, मैं वो दोबारा सुनना चाहती थी।
Yeah, so let me stop sharing and yeah. So see, the idea was that कि आपका citation, you will different journal actually, जब when you have already written, different journal will ask for different citation. मैंने APA में लिखा था. APA is usually used in anthropology and psychology. Archaeology में भी APA use करते हैं, but I think archaeology also uses Harvard and Chicago. Saurabh, what do you use?
I have not published anything yet, so I have no idea.
But as much as I know, I mean, I have also published in one of the archaeology paper, and I'm just writing, which I am doing in APA, but they also ask for Harvard. Wo actually it is journal based. And often what happens is that if you're using something known as Zotero or Mendeley or EndNote, if you have all of your papers in that particular software, आपको अपने सारे papers उस software में डालने होते हैं. And when we are writing in your Microsoft Word, in that Microsoft Word, when you open, you will have an option to sync your Word with your particular software. And whenever you are writing, you can you can have that citation, and you can select a citation whether you want to select APA, MLA, or Chicago or Harvard. And in that way, you sort of can see that you can use back and forth whichever citation is necessary. But it is better to select a citation before writing your dissertation, क्योंकि वो citation practice करना बहुत important है, because in anthropology, archaeology and all, many a times हमको new जो, let's say you want to there's some discovery that has been presented in a newspaper, and you want to put it in your dissertation, that this has been put it in a paper in Times of India, but उसका तो कोई PDF नहीं है जिसको आप डाउनलोड करके you can keep it in your Zotero or Mendeley. उसके लिए you have to know how to do manual citation. There is also a citation generator for APA, which I will share the link maybe tomorrow. Saurav, do remind me, I'll share that link tomorrow. वो एक citation generator है, and it just helps you generate citation for online links and all for APA and MLA. So this is what we were discussing basically. Somebody is asking about fund to go to field work. Okay. I did a small fieldwork based workshop last year when I was in my during my PhD, but this is something we feel like कि grants नहीं है fieldwork के लिए, but there are a lot of grants, not a lot for humanities and social sciences, but हाँ grants है. I would suggest all of you to be a bit proactive in Twitter and LinkedIn. ट्विटर से मुझे बहुत सारे ग्रांट्स के ऑप्शन मिलते हैं, लिंक्डइन से मिलता है. इफ यू आर एन आर्कियोलॉजिस्ट और इफ यू आर एन एंथ्रोपोलॉजी और सोशियोलॉजी working in human nature or culture, there are some things known as INTAC there, which I and another friend of mine, my lab has got one with Professor Sharda, which is an INTAC grant. There's INLUX, there is Wennergrain, there is Association for Asian Studies, there is Rafford. There's a lot of grant, and I can give you a list of grant, the ones that I've got, the ones that I've not got, but there are a lot of available. आपको बस you have to just be there and find a lot of grant. उसके deadlines अलग होते हैं, so you have to make sure also कि कौन सा deadline किसका है. हर साल हर grant की opening नहीं होती है, so make sure that you know the deadlines, and be out there in Twitter and LinkedIn. You will find a lot of help from grant and all. So be out there, make yourself present in these social medias. Kabhi kabhar social media works also.
Cami, there is one more question about by Monica Sharma. Should I read it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, so she is asking that she is that early coursework stage of my research, and her question is, what has to be written in research methodology while writing a PhD? Can the methodology be changed after submitting the synopsis? Because as I read an article, I always get a new idea that we can add this aspect also, or my research questions can be studied in this way also. So that was her question.
Yeah, I still had this new ideas and new themes coming up when I was submitting my thesis. But I think this is also something that you need to talk to your supervisor. आपके institute में कैसे, how the things work in your institute. In IIT Gandhinagar, where I am from, we can make some changes after our proposal defense. Obviously, it cannot be a huge change, but it has to be made in in tandem with discussion with your supervisor and your doctoral committee members. But yes, you can always make changes, but make sure that you talk to your supervisor कि ये possibility है या नहीं in your institute. And secondly is that what has to be written in research methodology, it's the research design that I think in the proposal that they need about. The methodology, it's all about what you are going to do in your field. Let's say I was an anthropologist and I had to go to field, and I had a different methodological approach. So I had qualitative interviews, I had household surveys, I also have participatory methodology. So you have to explain the research methodology as much as possible. अगर आपको पता है कि शायद बाद में आपको ये नहीं करना है, if you feel like these are the methods I might not do, but it is better to sort of list them out in your proposal, saying that these are the tentative research methodology that has been planned. And you can also write it in your proposal, because the research proposal is always tentative. It only becomes more concrete when you're in your like third, fourth year, post your field work, when things started to fall into places. So talk to your supervisor, but I feel methodology can be changed. But I think it should not change because आप वो method लेके field में जाते हो और वो method लेके अगर आप if you're an archaeologist, you are doing that particular method in your lab to do that work, or if you're a sociologist, quantitative sociologist or economist, आपने वो method select किया है, you are doing a data analysis, you are doing whether you're doing regression, you're doing a completely analysis of a particular household data or a district data analysis, वो आप already decide कर लेते हो. So methodology can be changed, but I don't think it can be changed after your field work because you've already employed the methodology. So that is something I would say that it can be changed, but when you're writing a proposal, make sure that you give all the possible methodology so that you say that these are the tentative methodology, and later on you can say that I was in the field and these methodologies were not feasible, so I decided to not have it. So I also did that. So I initially thought of using heavy quantitative analysis, quants, but eventually I ended up not doing that and just basic quant analysis. So that is something. Anything else? Your questions?
Yes, yes. So there is one other question by Rana Jain,
Yeah.
and she is asking that please briefly talk about turning dissertation chapters into publishable papers. How does one go about?
Yeah, and I think we're going to do that tomorrow, the first thing. So I think you just have to be there tomorrow. I do have a couple of slides to how we convert a dissertation chapter into a paper. So we will discuss that tomorrow. That is something in my mind. Anything else, Saurav?
Yeah, there is one small like question that Aishwarya Sahana is asking that is there any tips how could we finish literature early as possible?
Okay. See, the one thing that I want to say, I mean, literature review never ends, to be honest. It just never ends for, at least for humanities and social science people. I don't know about engineering and the physical sciences or natural sciences, but for us, it would never change because, you have to keep reading because you have to be updated with your literature review. Yes, in the beginning, you have to have the literature that builds your the backdrop of your thesis. You would be reading certain authors, so let's say if you are dealing with somebody from human non-human relations, so you will have a list of authors that you feel like, anthropology, multi-species anthropology, you will have some authors. If you're doing with, say, sociology of tourism, if you are, so you will have a list of authors you might have read. But that is not enough because you also have to be on foot what is happening every many a times. There was a senior of mine who was just about to submit the dissertation and found out that a similar paper has been published a week or two before, and they had to incorporate that literature in their dissertation because it was so similar to their work. So you have to read literature review. This is something, this is like a baggage in, I think, humanities and social sciences, that literature review never ends. But yes, your major literature review should be done in your second year. But do not stop reading literature, because if you stop reading literature, you wouldn't know how to sort of, make your thesis more better, because there are newer publication every alternate month, so, or every month rather. So आपके topic के related you will find some newer work that you want to incorporate in your literature review. But yes, literature review करना थोड़ा delay हो जाता है when we are in our third, fourth year, because we hardly get time to read literature because we are doing our analysis. But make sure that you read the newer articles that are relevant to your field. And literature review, अगर if you want to finish your literature review, I think there can be a lot of ways to do literature review, but it is also important that you maintain a template. What all literature has to be read? Maybe like finish 2 papers a week, but it depends upon how difficult a paper is. Sometimes it has taken me to read a paper a month. So it is also about our mental health. But it's good कि आप पहले you decide. There are also a lot of old literature but very relevant literature by stalwarts. Try to finish that within your first year of your PhD or when you're doing your coursework. But do not stop doing literature review by till you're like at the end. There is no end to the literature review. Yeah. what are the name of the app you mentioned to check grammar in your paper? Yeah, there is Grammarly, obviously. I think Grammarly helps a lot. Um, and there's Grammarly. Is there some other app where you can check grammar? I don't know. There's another one, I think. I'm forgetting.
People can use Quillboard
Yes, Quillboard.
also.
Yes, yes. So you can use Quillboard, but I think Grammarly is a bit better. But I'll also say something about Grammarly, and I think which I think me and Sharda ma'am, when we were at the we were like sort of going through my dissertation. Many times Grammarly will suggest you to change your sentence. Do not do that, because it is just reading some part of your paper, but you know what you want to write. You know how it has to be read. It will just do not accept all the suggestions. It just helps you to have a proper just toning down your thesis, but do not accept all the suggestions. Sometimes it is better to take help of if your institute has some writing studio services that I think IIT Gandhinagar has. I don't know how helpful it is though, but you can also take help from your friends. Friends who are from literature. I know I have a couple of friends here who have like have also bothered them to help check me with their grammar. So yeah, so this help. Who said that, about elaborate on the mixed method research? Okay, this is very, this is something I think it will take a lot of time explaining, elaborating on mixed method research. Devankita, can you tell me what you want to know about mixed method research? Because particularly this is not a research method workshop, and it might take a bit more time than I think we've expected. But you can stay back and maybe like if you have any particular query regarding mixed method, or so I have used something known as, I don't use the term mixed method in my research. I use the term multiple methodology. So this is something else. People who are using more than two research, people who are exploring newer methodologies, you can try something known as multiple methodology as well. But we'll get back to you, Dipankita, if you stay back at the end. Um, okay, somebody says that about master dissertation grant. I am unsure if there is any master's dissertation grant per se, but you can always have these fieldwork grants, smaller fieldwork grants. So that you can take, but I doubt there is any master dissertation grant for Indian students, or for people who are rather from Indian institute. Um, Even for PhD, there are very few. I know there are some, dissertation grant by Wengrain, and then there is I think there's another one which is by, I think, urban geography or something like that. People who are doing into urbanization or doing into urban sociology and urban development, they can apply for that. But I don't think there is a master dissertation writing grant for people who are from Indian Institute. So yeah. That being said, anything else? Um,
I think
mm,
that's all. We can wrap up the session for today.
yeah. Is there? So yeah, I think the last was one. Debankita, I don't know if you can like sort of if you want to stay back, but we can sort of you can just drop me a message in my email, and I can just write it to you, because this is not a method class, to be honest. But if you want to stay back, and if you want to know about it, I am happy to be here for another 10 minutes to just elaborate to you. Okay, it's fine. Sure, you can mail the query, and we can talk about that. And yeah, and if you have any question, that I think Rana asked the question how to change, we will start with that tomorrow. And if you have any other question that we can pick up, or you can just also email. You can also email to Saurav. Saurav, can you just share them your email as well, in case
Okay.
I don't have my email? You can also share the questions to Saurav. He'll
Yes,
take it
yes.
up.
Should I share the Ashoka grant database, because there are a lot of.
Yes, yes, yes. I think, yeah. Ashoka. So I also have my that PhD I've also made my own data grant, but unfortunately I can't share because those are like a personal thing. But mainly I've taken a lot from Ashoka also. But I would share my study plan template tomorrow morning, so that might help you guys. Yeah, I think we are done, Saurav, and
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
And we'll see tomorrow. We'll look into how we can do rebuttal responses and how to finish a dissertation and changing the dissertation into journal paper. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Camellia.